Everest is the kind of mountain we've all gotten used to thinking of as accessible. You've seen the photos, thousands of tourists bundled up in oxygen masks, clipped into fixed ropes, lining up on the slopes like it's a theme park ride. But behind that shiny industry, there's a totally different reality, one that's harsh, unglamorous, and mostly silent. Out beyond the routes the commercial groups use, there are ways up the mountain that can chew up and spit out even the pros. And there are people who actually choose those routes. One of them is Jost Kobusch, a climber from Germany. He heads out to where most folks turn back. And he does it solo, in winter, without oxygen. For him, it's never about breaking a record. It's about testing how far the human mind and body can really go. Every time he tries, he's basically walking a line between life and nothingness. This story is about someone who looks at the hardest challenge on Earth and says, "I'll take that one." The story starts in Borgholzhausen, a sleepy little town in Germany, the kind of place where the church tower is the highest point around. That's where Jost grew up. And even as a kid, his eyes were always looking up, not straight ahead. The hills beyond his house looked like real mountains to him. Forest trails felt like big expeditions. Every tree was worth climbing. Other kids played soccer. Jost climbed anything taller than himself. His parents took him on hikes, and he'd always be out front, never waiting for the group. When he was 9, he told them, "I want to go where it's scary." At 12, he found the local climbing gym. The walls were plastic, all colorful holds, crash mats on the floor, totally safe, which, for Jost, meant just a little boring. But what he really fell in love with wasn't the adrenaline, it was the discipline. In the German mountaineering tradition, technique comes first, not brute strength. Control is everything, and you have to respect danger, above all. He learned to plan routes with his eyes, spread his weight just right, find the balance with his body. The coaches noticed, he never rushed. He always paused to think. That's pretty rare for a teenager. A few years go by. Jost turns 18. He faces a classic fork in the road, college or the military. He picks the army, not out of patriotism, just because that's what all the men in his family had always done. But then, life throws him a curveball. He gets assigned to a mountain unit in the Alps. Real mountains, real snow, real ice, real altitude. Where others saw a hardship post, Jost saw a survival school. He lugged 40 pounds on cross-country marches, camped out in tents at 20 below, trained on glaciers where one wrong step could send you into a crevasse. The army turned his hobby into a system. Now, climbing wasn't just something he did for fun. It was something he trained for. The constant backpacking, the cold, and all those glacier drills, they were brutal. That's when he had his first real back problems. Nothing huge, just the kind of aches everyone in the mountain units dealt with, but sneaky and persistent. Sometimes he felt it after a long march, sometimes after hauling gear. Back then, he didn't worry about it. When you're young, you heal fast. But that seed of weakness was planted. It would keep showing up later. And somewhere inside, a new thought started to form. If I can do this here, with the safety net of the team, what would happen if I went alone? Higher, colder, riskier. That ordinary kid from a quiet town was quietly turning into someone for whom solitude at high altitude would become normal. He just didn't know it yet. For now, he was just heading up. Step by step. No stopping. It's 2013. Kyrgyzstan. Mount Yoko, a little over 5,000 meters high. Jost is 21. This is his first real expedition. Not a training trip, not just a vacation. The real thing. The base camp looks like a time capsule from the Soviet days. Rusty old fuel barrels, ropes that look like they've been here since the 80s. The gear is worn out, patched up in places with duct tape. The vibe is kind of surreal, like time hit pause here decades ago. But to Jost, it's pure magic. There's no comfort, nothing extra. Just the mountain and the people who came to climb it. Jost is roped up with a small team. The first few hours, total rush. The snow crunches underfoot. The air is so clean, it almost rings in your ears. But once they break that 3,000-meter barrier, everything changes. The snow gets weird, solid one moment, giving way the next. Under the surface are cracks and ice traps you don't even see until you're almost in them. Jost can hear his own heartbeat getting louder. This isn't a climbing gym anymore. Here, a mistake could cost your life. On day 4, they hear shouts. Another team is coming down, fast and panicked. They're carrying someone. An alpinist took a fall on descent, dropped nearly 20 meters, slammed into the ice. His face is gray, eyes closed. The guys are dragging him on a makeshift stretcher, skis, rope, jackets, whatever they have. Yus stands aside and just watches. This is his first real brush with death. Not something on the news, not a story. For real, right in front of him. The guy was healthy that morning. Now, his life is hanging by a thread. Maybe he'll make it, maybe not. The mountain doesn't care. Just's team keeps climbing. No one says much. Everyone is thinking the same thing, but nobody says out loud, "Should we turn back too?" The summit nearly breaks them. The wind slices his face, his lungs burn from the thin air. But Just makes it. He stands on top, looks down, and doesn't feel happy. He feels calm. A weird, cold kind of calm, like something inside him finally fell into place. Going down is always tougher than going up. You're tired. You lose focus. Just moves slow and cautious, testing every step. When he finally gets back to camp, he's not the same person he was. He's calmer, tougher, way more alert. That night, sitting by the fire, he can't stop thinking about that injured climber. Later, he finds out the man survived. He got lucky. But Just figures out the one thing that matters. He could have easily been in that stretcher. And somehow, that doesn't scare him off. He still wants to climb, higher, riskier peaks. Why? There's no logical reason. His survival instinct should be screaming at him to quit. But instead of fear, there's just this pull, like the mountain showed him something he can't unsee. And now, he can't stop. Fast forward to 2014. Nepal. Ama Dablam. Nearly 7,000 meters up. Its name means Mother's Necklace. Beautiful name for a place that can kill you. Just is 22. He does something that sounds crazy. He goes solo. No oxygen, no support crew, no backup. Just him and the mountain. The first few meters, it's just absolute silence. No voices, no footsteps. Only his breathing and the crunch of snow under his boots. The ice walls stretch up like glass cathedrals. Cold, unforgiving, quietly beautiful. Just climbs slow, planning every move. One mistake, and there's no one to help him. At 6,000 meters, the wind shows up. Not just strong, the kind of wind that feels like a full-on hurricane. It knocks you off your feet, tosses you around like you're nothing. Just digs his ice axe into the glacier, presses himself into the slope. The wind is so loud you can feel it in your bones, screaming in your ears. This is the lesson. Nature never asks if you're ready. It just hits, and you either hang on or you go down. He makes it to the summit, stands there for a minute, maybe two. He doesn't shout in triumph. He just breathes. The thin air burns in his lungs, his head spinning. That's when it hits him. He did it, alone. And that changes everything. Jump ahead 1 year to 2015. Everest. Just is part of a big expedition now. The base camp at Khumbu is a mashup of tents, prayer flags, and hundreds of people. It feels like a festival. Some are getting ready to climb. Others have already come back, swapping stories. Just is getting used to the altitude, making plans. The weather's good, then it's April 25th. Just before noon. The ground starts to shake. At first, nobody knows what's happening. The tents are swaying, people are stumbling outside, and then comes the noise. A roar like the sky itself is breaking apart. The Khumbu icefall, a wall of ice, maybe a kilometer tall, starts to collapse. Whole chunks the size of buses are tumbling down, smashing everything in their path. The air is full of shouts. Just is standing on the edge of camp, watching an avalanche wipe out part of the route. Where there were people walking an hour ago, now it's just chaos. Ice, rocks, dust everywhere. The whole mountain is trembling. The ground feels alive, angry and impossible to predict. All around, people are panicking, running without knowing where to go. Some lose their balance, going down hard. The Nepal earthquake of 2015, magnitude 7.8. Nearly 9,000 people will die across the country. On Everest, 22 lives lost. Part of base camp is wiped out by the avalanche. Just survives, not because he was smarter or faster. He just got lucky. A meter to the left, a meter to the right. That could have been the end. The next few hours pass by in a blur. Just helps dig wounded climbers out of wrecked tents and ice. There's crying, shouting, shock. He's moving on autopilot. His hands just keep working while his mind checks out. That evening, when things quiet down, he sits outside his tent, gazing up at the mountain. Everest is still there, unmoved. Not an enemy. It's not angry. Not a friend. It's not helping you out. It just is. And if you step onto it, you do it at your own risk. Something clicks in Just's mind at that moment. If he really wants to find out what he's made of, he needs the 8,000ers. Not the routes everyone's taking. The real thing. The dangerous ones. The ones that can kill you. 2016, Annapurna. 8,091 meters. The stats are brutal. About 1 in 3 climbers who go up don't come back. It's the deadliest 8,000-meter peak on Earth. Just is 24. He's climbing without oxygen. Annapurna is more than just altitude. It's avalanches that come with no warning. Ice cliffs that can collapse by the ton. The weather flips in minutes. 1 second it's sunny, the next it's a blizzard and you can't see past your face. The route goes right under hanging glaciers that could come down at any time. Climbers call it Russian roulette. You just hope today isn't your day. Just moves up slow and steady. Every step is a calculation. At 23,000 feet, your lungs start to burn. There's barely any air, and your body's running on fumes. Without an oxygen mask, every breath feels like a battle. Your head goes foggy, your thoughts get tangled. But he keeps moving. He reaches the summit, stands there for a few minutes, then starts his way down. Alive. People in the climbing world take notice. Here's this guy. No drama, no sponsors, no big declarations. Conquering one of the most dangerous mountains out there. That's not luck anymore. That's skill. It's 2017 in Pakistan. Nanga Parbat. People call it the Killer Mountain. 26,660 feet of rock and ice. Just sets his sights on a secondary summit, Nanga Parbat 2. Not the main peak, but the route is technically tougher. Steep slopes, walls of ice, places where a single slip means dropping hundreds of meters. He's the first one up this season, breaking trail where nobody's been yet that year. The cold up here is something else. Not just the kind of cold that freezes you, it cuts through you. Even with gloves on, your fingers go numb in minutes. The wind slices your face like a blade. It drops to 40 below. Breathing hurts. The air is freezing. Every inhale burns your throat. At 24,500 feet, Just stops to rest. He looks down, just clouds below him. Up above, nothing but rock and ice. He's alone, absolutely alone. And now, that feeling of isolation at the edge of the world, it doesn't scare him anymore. It fuels him. He gets to the summit, first ascent of the season, comes back down, and finds out he's been nominated for the Piolet d'Or. That's like the Oscars of mountaineering, a major award for outstanding climbs, a nod from the world's best. For a lot of people, that's the peak of their career. But not for Just. Recognition is fine, but that's not what draws him to the mountains. He's not there for applause. He's looking for the challenge, the real deal, the one that pushes you to your absolute limit, the kind where one mistake can cost everything. The regular 8,000ers, even the deadliest ones, start to feel like old news. Annapurna, Nanga Parbat. Yeah, they're deadly, but people still go there. There are routes, there's a history of successful climbs, there's a playbook. So Just starts looking for something else, a route almost nobody has done, a place where winter turns the mountain into a nightmare, where being alone isn't just an option, it's the only way, where climbing without oxygen isn't just a sporting choice, but a real test of how much you can take. And he finds it. Everest, the West Ridge, in winter, alone, no oxygen. That's a combo that sounds like a death wish. But for Just, it's the only thing that makes sense. Mount Everest, 29,032 feet, the highest point on the planet. You'd think there's nothing new to do up there. Thousands of people have made it to the top. Tourists with oxygen masks, guides, commercial expeditions, fixed ropes, worn-out trails, crowds on the route. Everest has turned into an industry. But there's one side of the mountain where that industry doesn't reach, the West Ridge. Hardly anyone climbs there, not because it can't be done, but because it kills. The first ascent on the West Ridge, Yugoslavs, back in 1979. A team of 10. It took them 2 months. They had each other's backs, built camps along the way, used oxygen. And even then, they almost didn't make it back alive. Since then, fewer than 100 people have ever made it along this route. Just to give you an idea, every season, hundreds of climbers take the classic southern route. So, what makes the West Ridge so dangerous? First, the altitude. The route follows a ridge, completely exposed to the wind. There's nowhere to hide, nowhere to take shelter. The wind here isn't just strong, it's hurricane force, blowing at something like 60 or 70 miles an hour, sometimes more. It can literally rip you off the mountain. Then there's the cold. In the winter, temperatures plunge to 50 below zero. In those conditions, metal snaps, ropes turn brittle, and you're pretty much just a piece of meat, freezing by the minute. And then there's the isolation. The West Ridge is way off the beaten track. If something goes wrong, there's no one coming to help you. Rescuers simply can't get there in time. Joost pores over maps, reads accounts from the handful of people who've tried the road. They all say the same thing: this is the edge of what's possible. Almost nobody tries it in winter. Winter climbs on Everest are rare anyway. The conditions are so brutal, most people think you'd have to be out of your mind to even consider it. And a solo winter climb, up the West Ridge, without oxygen, that's not just crazy, that's another level entirely. But for Joost, this is exactly the point. He's not interested in following a path that's been done 1,000 times before. He wants to go where every step is a battle, where there's no backup team, no safety net, and no oxygen mask to save you if your body starts to give out. The only thing he can count on is his own endurance and willpower. In 2018, he makes up his mind for good. He starts training harder than ever, spending week after week in the cold, simulating high-altitude conditions, working on his mental toughness. At 8,000 meters without oxygen, your brain basically starts to shut down. Your thoughts get scrambled, and every decision takes forever. If you're not truly ready, you die. He writes in his journal, "Better to do less, but do it honestly. Difficulty is my filter for truth." This isn't bravado, it's a philosophy. Joost isn't chasing records for the sake of it. He wants honesty. In mountaineering, it's easy to cheat yourself. Climb with oxygen and claim you conquered the mountain. Go with a team and take all the credit. But Joost wants to know what he can do. Just him, alone, no oxygen, no illusions. By 2019, he's ready. The plan is simple and completely nuts. Winter, West Ridge, solo, no oxygen. The world's climbing elite are watching, kind of amazed, kind of baffled. They respect the guts it takes to try, but honestly, most think he's got almost no chance. Joost doesn't care about guarantees. He's looking for the edge, and he's ready to look for it. December 2019. Nepal, Everest Base Camp. Joost is standing alone by his tent, staring up at the mountain. The place is empty. No commercial expeditions, no tourists, no guides. In winter, hardly anyone comes here. It's just too cold, too risky, and the odds are way too low. He checks his gear one last time. Tent, sleeping bag, stove, the bare minimum of food. No extra stuff. Every gram at altitude is a burden, and he has to carry it all himself. He's traveling light because he's going alone. No one's carrying his load but him. There's no one to back him up on the tough sections. If he slips, no hand is there to pull him out. The weather's shaky from the very first day. Wind keeps shifting every hour. Sometimes it dies down. Sometimes it suddenly howls. The sky's thick with clouds. Visibility is basically a rumor. Even the forecasts can't make up their minds. But Joost makes his call. He's going. The window might never open at all, so you have to take what you get. The first few days are all about fighting yourself. His body hasn't caught up to the altitude yet. Every step feels like wading through mud. His backpack eats into his shoulders. Breathing's short, his heart pounds. But he keeps climbing, meter after meter, hour after hour. At 7,000 meters, real cold starts to bite. Not just the kind you feel walking around in winter, a kind that drills down to your bones, to your brain. The temperature drops to somewhere around -45. The wind cuts right through, no matter how many layers he's got on. Joost sets up camp for the night, puts up the tent. It's not just tossing up a tent, it's a battle with the ice, driving in stakes, tying off ropes, making sure this thing is actually going to survive the wind. That night, the wind turns up even more. The whole tent bends like paper. The fabric snaps so loud, sleep is a joke. Joost lies in his sleeping bag, listening to the mountain howl around him. Every gust feels like a hit. The tent groans, seams stretch tight. He knows if the tent rips, he's done. There's just no surviving up there without shelter. In the morning, he crawls out and sees the snow's been stripped away, all the way to the stone. Spots that were snowed in yesterday are bare now. Sunlight glints on the ice. Not good news. It means the wind here never lets up, and it's only going to get worse higher up. He keeps climbing. At around 7,200 meters, his brain slows down. Thoughts lag, choices are harder. That's just thin air. His brain is starved for oxygen. Without a mask, it hits full force, like someone wrapped his head in cotton, like the world's gone behind frosted glass. Now the crevasses are getting deeper. Joost can see them, black chasms in the snow, dropping down what could be tens of meters. He circles around, checks every foothold. Step in the wrong spot, fall in, it's game over. No one's coming. No one will even know where he disappeared. At 7360, Joost stops. He looks up. There's still about 1,500 meters left to the summit. Looks around, the snow's iffy, wind's getting nastier, clouds are stacking up. Avalanche risk is high. He can feel it in the slope, in how the snow sits, in the sounds the mountain makes. He makes his call, turns around, heads down. For a solo climber, that's a tough choice. Turning back feels like admitting you lost, like the mountain beat you. But Joost gets it. Being a live failure is better than being a dead hero. He didn't come here to die. He came to see what he's made of, and now he knows. This time, it just wasn't enough. The way down is rough. He's wiped out, focus slipping. On the steeper patches, he feels an old twinge in his back, that army injury he learned to shove aside ages ago. Just another thing to factor in. But he makes it back to base camp, alive, in one piece. And even before he takes off his boots, he's already making a new plan in his head. I'll come back. Only next time, I'll be stronger, better prepared. Failure doesn't break him. It just tells him what he needs to know. Now he knows the route like the back of his hand. He knows where it gets tough. He knows what to expect. But this isn't the end. This is just the scouting mission. 2 years go by in preparation. Joost isn't just waiting around. He's putting in the work, training in the cold, up high, alone. He digs through weather records from the last 10 years, breaks down every failed expedition on the West Ridge, looking for patterns, windows, moments when the mountain just might let someone through. Winter of 2021 into 2022. He's back at base camp. This time he knows exactly where to pitch the tent, where to save energy, where to push it. Technically, he's stronger. Physically, he's tougher. Mentally, he's ready for anything. But the mountain doesn't care how prepared you are. The weather greets him with a hurricane right out of the gate. Seriously. A cyclone hits the region in the very first week. Winds hit nearly 80 miles per hour. At that speed, you just get blown away. You can't stand, can't move, can't even keep your tent upright. So Joost sits in base camp, waiting. A day goes by, then another, then a whole week. Eventually, the cyclone moves off. Joost starts his climb. He gets up to about 22,000 feet, and then the weather crashes again. Another storm. Snow comes in sideways, no visibility at all. Temperatures drop even lower. The thermometer says -50. At that point, exposed skin freezes in under a minute. Your breath turns into ice crystals. They collect on your beard, your eyelashes, your hood. He heads back down and waits. Keeps checking the satellite forecasts, but there's nothing good coming. No stable windows open up. Usually in winter, Everest gives you a few days when the winds calm down, and you might have a shot. But not this season. The air's unstable, pressure keeps jumping around, and it's just one cyclone after another. Joost tries again. This time, he makes it to around 23,000 feet, spends the night on the slope, wakes up in the morning, and just knows. It's not happening. The wind won't let you go any higher. Snow avalanches down from above. The slope vibrates like it's alive. That's the one sound climbers fear most. It means the snowpack's about to go. Take one wrong step, and everything could come down. So, he turns around. Again. Heading down, slow and careful. Every step down is a little victory, because he could have been one of those who stay up there, never coming back. Frozen, swept away, gone for good. But he makes it down. Back at base camp, he sits by his tent, thinking. Twice in a row, the mountains shut him out. The odds are stacked against him now. Success is slipping further and further away. Any reasonable person would call it, enough, you tried, it's impossible. But Joost isn't just any reasonable person. He gets it. The mountain was stronger this time. Not forever, just this time. Because weather, it's a variable. It changes every year. Maybe next season there'll be a window. Maybe he'll spot a moment. And here's one more thing. By now, he's come too far to just walk away. 2 years prepping, 2 failed attempts. Twice coming back alive, when a lot of people wouldn't. This isn't simple stubbornness. It's something else. like the mountain has become part of who he is, and just turning around and forgetting doesn't feel possible. Friends ask, why keep coming back? You see that it's almost impossible. He answers calmly, almost isn't the same as impossible, because I want to know where my limit is, and I haven't found it yet. This isn't about being a hero. It's not about chasing fame. It's about trying to answer a question most people never really ask themselves. What am I capable of when everything is stacked against me? Yus doesn't know the answer yet, but he's looking for it, again and again, until he finds it, or until the mountain stops him for good. It's the year 2023. Alaska, Denali, just over 6,000 meters high, the tallest mountain in North America, and it's winter. Yust is heading up there alone once again. Climbing Denali in winter isn't just about being cold. This is seriously Arctic hell. Temperatures can drop to -60. The wind is so strong, it rips tents right out of the ground. For weeks, the sun never even rises. You're walking in the dark, headlamp on, and all you see is a few meters ahead. Everything else, total, endless black. There's a reason Yust picked Denali. It's a test run. A way to see if he's ready before his third shot at the Everest West Ridge. If he can pull this off, in these conditions, he knows he's ready. If not, he'll keep working at it. The first days are all about surviving the cold. Your phone battery freezes in an hour. Your GPS gives up. Food goes rock hard. You have to melt it on the stove to eat. Your water thermos turns into a block of ice if you don't keep it inside your jacket. Every breath freezes on your face and turns into an ice mask. By the end of the day, your beard's frosted over. Your eyelashes are glued together. The loneliness here is something else. On Everest, you know there are people down the slope, other expeditions nearby. In Denali's winter, there's literally nobody. You're the only human for hundreds of kilometers. If something goes wrong, no one's coming. No rescue, no help. You're your own team, your own doctor, your own motivator. That really changes your perspective. At first, that isolation weighs on you. You crave a voice, a face, just something to remind you you're not totally alone in the universe. But then, about a week in, something shifts. Yust starts hearing himself. Not other people, not their opinions, just himself. His breath, his thoughts, his own steady pace. And that's when he realizes being alone isn't a disadvantage. It's actually a resource. Without a team, you don't have to match anyone else's tempo. No arguments, no debates about which way to go. You make decisions fast because you're the only one you have to answer to. You listen to your body, not anybody else's advice. And that makes you stronger. At 5,000 meters, Yust spends the night in his tent. The wind is howling outside. It's -55, and the whole tent shakes, but holds. Lying in his sleeping bag, he thinks, if I can do this, alone, in the cold, in the dark, then Everest is within reach. It's not about being cocky. It's about knowing because you've lived it. He gets to the summit of Denali, standing there in the darkness with his headlamp, staring into nothing. No photos for social media, no flags, just a quiet moment. Personal, important. And then comes the hardest part, the way down. His legs are shaking with cold and exhaustion. His fingers barely work. The higher he gets, the worse the wind is. It knocks him over more than once. The crevasses he could see on the way up are hidden now under snow, so he has to feel his way forward, step by step, never sure what's in front of him. He stops a few times, just to get his bearings in the dark. His headlamp only lights up a small cone in front of him. Everything else is just black emptiness. The hours stretch on forever. He moves slowly, like he's wading through thick air. Every step feels like a tiny victory over the cold, the loneliness, and his own body. When he finally makes it back to camp, it's not euphoria. It's relief. He's alive. And now he knows for sure, being alone doesn't scare him anymore. In fact, it feeds him. It sharpens his focus. It strips away everything but what matters. Just him and the mountain. Everest feels possible. All he has to do is come back one more time. At 8,000 meters up, your brain is literally starving. That's not just a metaphor, it's basic biology. The air up there has only about a third of the oxygen you get at sea level. Every breath barely keeps you going. Your heart starts racing, trying to keep up. Your lungs strain. But your brain? Still not enough. The cells start to die off. It's slow, but it can't be stopped. Climbers call anything above 8,000 meters the death zone. Not to be dramatic, it's just the truth. The human body isn't made for this kind of altitude. Up there, it's dying, little by little, every hour. An oxygen mask can slow this down, gives you extra oxygen so you can think clearly, make decisions, keep your body moving. With a mask, you can keep your head straight, stay in control. Juiced climbs without one. Other climbers have tanks strapped to their backs, hoses, regulators, the whole kit. He's got nothing but his own lungs, what nature gave him, and it's not enough. The numbers don't lie. Only about 6% of climbs above 8,000 meters are done without oxygen. 6 out of every 100. The other 94, they use support because without it, your odds of making it are almost zero, and your chances of dying go way up. So, what really happens to your body up there without oxygen? First, your brain slows down. Simple things. Where to step, how to clip a carabiner. They take minutes when they should take seconds. Then, the hallucinations start. Your oxygen-starved brain makes things up. Climbers see people who aren't there, hear voices. Some start talking to nobody. It gets worse. Your coordination goes. Your hands don't listen to you. Your legs start to buckle. You can walk and not even know where you're going. You'll stop and forget why you stopped. And if you don't get down in time, you'll just sit down. And that's it. Your body shuts down. Your mind fades out. The mountain takes you. Juice knows all of this. He's read the reports, talked to people who've climbed without oxygen and made it back. He gets it. A mistake up there doesn't just cost you time or energy. It costs you awareness. It costs you your life. You can't afford to slip up. You can't relax. Every step is control. Every decision is you fighting through the fog in your head. So why do it? Why turn down the one piece of technology that saves lives? Why go into the death zone with no backup? Juiced puts it simply. Because this is what separates popular mountaineering from the real thing. With oxygen, hundreds of people can make it up Everest every season. Tourists paying guides for the experience. They're following a set route, with guides, with oxygen, and yeah, that's still an achievement. But that's not the limit. The real limit is you and the mountain. No middlemen. No artificial support. Just your body, your will, your mind, against a force of nature that never meant for you to be up here in the first place. That's real, that's pure. It's the honest truth about what you can actually do. Winter on Everest isn't just a colder rerun of summer. It's like a different planet. The winds get insane. Hurricane strength. Think wind howling at you at 150 or even 200 kilometers an hour. At that speed, the air turns into a weapon. It knocks you down, smashes you into rocks, rips tents right out of the ground, anchors and all. Breathing? Forget about it. The wind blasts the air out of your lungs faster than you can suck it back in. You can't even stand. The wind just blows you away. And walking? Not a chance. Temperatures sink to minus 60. That's not some number you just see on a weather app. That's real life, where metal snaps, ropes freeze and crack apart, and you can get frostbite in seconds. Snow doesn't settle, it just gets blown away down to bare rock. The slopes change into icy, slick, deadly territory. Climbing one of the big 8,000-meter peaks in winter is rare. Throughout all of mountaineering history, there have been fewer than 100 winter ascents. For context, every summer, hundreds of people reach the summit of Everest. But in winter, maybe a handful, and almost all of them climb in teams. Take Nirmal Purja, a Nepalese climber. In 2021, he summited K2 in winter, but he went with a team of 10. They watched each other's backs, split the load, kept each other going. Or Italian climbers Simone Moro and Denis Urubko. They climbed Nanga Parbat in winter, also as a team. 3 people, roped together, constantly talking. Having a team in winter isn't luxury, it's survival. One sets up camp, another cooks, another checks the route. Someone gets too cold, the others keep them alive. Someone gets lost, the others bring them back. The team is your support system. But Joost? He's climbing alone. Not accidentally, not because he has no other option. It's a conscious decision to make things as tough as possible. He could have found a partner, put together a crew, but he chose to go solo, because that's the only way to find out what he, and only he, is truly capable of. No backup, no delegating, no compromise. A solo, winter ascent of Everest without oxygen, just saying those words, it sounds like a death sentence. Each of those things on its own can kill you. Put them together, and your chances of making it out drop to almost nothing. On this mountain, mistakes aren't forgiven. Winter doesn't give second chances. And when you're alone, there's no plan B. Is it even possible to survive Everest in winter, completely solo? In theory, sure. In practice, almost no one's ever tried. Because that's the edge. The line where you cross over into a place where you're not calling the shots anymore, where nature lays down the rules and you either play by them or you disappear. Used is standing right on that line, and he's thinking about crossing it, not because he's chasing danger, but because he wants to answer the question, is it even possible? Is it possible to get somewhere no human's ever been? Is it possible to survive in a place that looks like it just isn't meant for survival? He doesn't know the answer, but he's going to find out. December 28th, 2023, evening, the West Ridge of Everest. Jost is standing at around 7,000 meters, looking up. Darkness is coming fast. The wind is howling. It's minus 45 degrees. He makes his decision. Keep going. No camp, no stopping, just up. It's a huge risk. Normally, climbers set up camps along the way, places to sleep, recover, wait out the weather. Jost skips all that. He's going light. One push, one shot. Either he makes it or he turns back. There's no middle ground. The first 100 meters go okay. His body's working, breathing's steady, mind is clear. But above 7,000, everything changes. Every extra 100 meters is a fight, not with the mountain, but with himself. Lungs on fire, heart racing, head spinning. The air is dangerously thin. Without oxygen, each breath only gives his body about a third of what it needs. The brain starts starving. The wind strips snow from the slope, leaving patches of bare ice. Slick, tricky, unpredictable. Jost jams in his ice axe, takes a step, jams it in again. Slow and steady. There's no rushing here, no room for mistakes. One wrong move and you're gone, tumbling down hundreds of meters with nothing to stop you. Once he hits about 7,200 meters, his mind starts to go fuzzy. Thoughts get tangled, reactions slow down. Jost stops to breathe, tries to pull himself together. He checks his watch. No idea how much time has passed. A minute, 10, an hour. Time doesn't mean anything anymore. There's just the next step, and the next, and the next. The wind keeps picking up, knocking him sideways. He clings to the slope and waits for the gusts to die down, then pushes on. It's absolute darkness. His headlamp lights up only a few meters ahead. Beyond that, pure black, just empty space all around. It feels like he's the only person in the universe. No sound, no other people, nothing alive. Just him, the mountain, and the wind. At about 7,400 meters, Jost checks his tracker, the device logging his altitude with GPS. The tracker says 7,488. His watch says 7,537. That kind of difference is normal up here. What matters? He's now above a point held by a French team for nearly 40 years, just under 7,500 meters in winter on the West Ridge. It's a new personal record, but the summit is still far away, over 1,000 meters to go, and his body is begging to stop. His legs are shaking, hands trembling. His mind's so clouded, it's hard to tell up from down. Jost stops, looks up. The summit is out there somewhere in the dark, impossible to reach. He turns around, not out of fear, not because he's giving up, but because he knows. Going forward means dying. His body's maxed out. Go another 100 meters and he's not coming back. His mind will shut down, his body will quit, and the mountain will take him. He's set the record. Nobody's ever gone higher, solo and without oxygen, on the West Ridge in winter. The summit is still out there. But this isn't failure, it's knowledge. Now Jost knows exactly where the line is. Next time, he'll be back, stronger. That's the Alpine style. It's a philosophy. You move fast, light, no stops. One single push from base to summit and back. No intermediate camps, no stashes of food, no fixed ropes waiting for you. Everything you need, you carry yourself. And if something goes wrong, you're the one who has to deal with it. Or not. It's all on you. That's the style Jost chooses. Not because it's easier. Actually, it's way harder. But it feels honest. The classic way to climb Everest is called the Himalayan style. Big teams set up several camps, go up and down the mountain a bunch of times, get used to the altitude, leave loads of equipment along the route. It's safer, sure, but it's way slower, and it takes a crazy amount of logistics. For Jost, the hardest part is setting up a tent platform at about 6,800 meters. Sounds simple. Find a flat spot, pitch your tent. In reality, it's a nightmare. The snow up here is as hard as concrete. You have to chop at it with your ice axe, level it out, stomp it down. Every swing drains your energy. Every breath is a battle. There's barely any air, and your body is already running on empty. Wind tears at the tent while Joss tries to pin it down. The fabric snaps and pulls out of his hands. He jams the stakes into the ice. They barely hold. So he looks for cracks, drills in some ice screws, ties off ropes. The whole thing takes an hour, maybe more. Time moves weird up high, sometimes flying, sometimes crawling. When the tent's finally up, Joss crawls inside, wiped out. He's so tired he can't even take his boots off right away. For a while, he just lies there, breathing, waiting for his heart to calm down. He's carrying just the bare minimum: one tent, one sleeping bag, one tiny stove, hardly any food. That's his strength. He's light, fast, not weighed down. But that's also his weakness. If something breaks, there's no backup. Alpine style is all about this contrast. On one hand, you move faster. You're at less risk from spending weeks up high. You don't waste energy acclimatizing over and over. You go straight for it, while your body's still strong and the weather's on your side. On the other hand, you're exposed. One hole in your tent, and you're left without shelter. One broken stove, and you can't melt snow for water. One misstep, and there's no help coming. Joss gets that. He's taking the risk on purpose, because speed matters. On Everest in winter, going slow pretty much means you're not coming back. The longer you stay, the more likely it is the weather will turn. Your body will fail. Your brain will fog. Alpine style gives you a shot. Not a big one, but it's real. Coming down is always more dangerous than going up. Every mountaineer knows that. Most accidents, they happen on the way back. Your body's done, your focus slips, your brain relaxes, the summit's behind you, the worst should be over. But the mountain doesn't let you drop your guard. Joss turns around at 7,488 meters and starts heading down. The wind ramps up, 25, 30 miles an hour. The gusts knock him sideways, slap him against the slope. He hugs the mountain, digs in with his ice axe, waits for a break. Then he inches his way down, and waits again. His legs start to go numb and shaky. That's the altitude and exhaustion kicking in. His muscles have been maxed out for hours. They're done listening to orders. Every step takes effort, not just physically, but mentally. He has to force himself to move his foot, shift his weight, take the next step. Autopilot is gone. Everything is a struggle, willpower, plain and simple. At about 7,000 meters, Youst stops for a breather. He looks down, clouds stretch out below him. He looks up. The summit is swallowed by darkness. He knows it's only going to get harder from here. His body keeps growing weaker. The cold burns right through his clothes. Even inside his gloves, his fingers are numb. He checks them. They still move. That's good. No frostbite. Not yet. The descent takes hours. Slow, exhausting, risky hours. In the dark, it's easy to slip, to miss a crevasse, to step on ice and lose your footing. Youst moves carefully, testing every step. His headlamp lights up just a few meters ahead, and the rest is pure black emptiness. At 6,800 meters, he reaches the spot where his tent was pitched. Somehow, it's still there, which feels like a miracle. The wind could have torn it away, or snow could have buried it. But it's held on. He crawls inside, zips it up, and slides into his sleeping bag. Boots still on. He just lies there, breathing, feeling the warmth slowly come back into his body. Morning comes. He keeps heading down. His legs still feel like jelly, but his head is clearer now. The lower he goes, the more oxygen there is. His brain finally starts to work right. His thoughts sharpen. And that's when it hits him. He made it. He survived. He came back. He hit his goal. But wait, his goal? There was no summit. He didn't reach 88.49. He stopped at 74.88. That's gotta be failure, right? For Youst, it doesn't feel like failure at all. It feels like winning. He just set a record. No one has ever gone higher on the West Ridge in winter, solo, without oxygen. No one. He's the first. And now he's got experience. He knows the route, knows where it gets tough, how long each stretch really takes, and how his body handles the altitude. The summit? That's mostly for commercial groups, tourists paying for a photo on top of the world. For Youst, the real goal is different. Finding out what he's capable of, how far he can push himself, and coming back alive to try again. And he's done that. His body is totally spent, but he's alive, he made it, and he's stronger now than before. That is victory. Back in 1982, 3 French climbers, Jean Afanasieff, Jean-Pierre Frain, and Pierre Mazot, tried the West Ridge of Everest in winter. They got up to 7,500 meters, then turned back. For decades, that number was the limit for the West Ridge in winter. Joost has pored over their reports, read their journals, studied their photos. He's tried to figure out what stopped them. Was it the weather? Exhaustion? Fear? The French had a team, oxygen, support. And even then they turned back. That says something. The West Ridge in winter is really the edge, even for pros with full resources. This time, Joost climbs up to 74.88, alone, no oxygen. Tougher conditions than the French had. This isn't just a record, it's proof that limits can move, inch by inch, carefully, slowly, but they can move. His route follows the line of the Yugoslavs from back in 1979. They were the first to climb the West Ridge, a 10-person team, 2 months on the mountain, tons of gear. Joost has followed their path. Now, he knows every meter of it, where the steep bits are, where the ice walls and crevasses hide. He knows how long each stretch really takes. That knowledge is his best weapon. But outside, things are getting worse. In the Khumbu region, where Everest Base Camp sits, protests are starting to break out. The locals aren't exactly thrilled with how commercial the mountains become. There's more trash, more crowds, and honestly, a lot of tourists just don't treat the place, or the people, with much respect. Tensions are rising. Getting supplies up there is harder than ever. And then there are the earthquakes. Nepal sits right on top of a seismic hotspot. After that big earthquake back in 2015, the glaciers up here got even less stable. The cracks are deeper, the ice falls are riskier. Routes people once considered pretty safe, now they're totally unpredictable. Ice can just drop without a sound or a warning. No drama, it's just here 1 second, gone the next. He still feels that old injury. Not enough to stop him, but it's always there. Just a reminder, his body isn't running at 100%. Up here, even small things add up fast. Sometimes turning back isn't about being scared or giving up. Sometimes it's just good judgment, a cold, calculated decision. So, that's what he does. He turns around, not out of fear, not out of defeat. He does it because he knows experience matters more than heroics. No one needs a dead hero, not even the hero himself. But an experienced climber who makes it down, that's valuable. He can come back, try again, share what he's learned. Up here on Everest, heroics have a price. People pay with their lives. There are hundreds of bodies up on the slopes, frozen and forgotten, unreachable. Those are folks who picked the summit over survival, folks who didn't turn back when they should have. Joost chooses life, because the mountain isn't going anywhere. It'll always be here, waiting. Joost heads down to base camp. He takes off his boots, sits by his tent, and just stares up at the mountain. The West Ridge climbs into the clouds, vanishing out of sight. His route, unfinished. He was maybe 1,000 meters from the top, maybe a bit more. He was that close. And still, he turned around. Some people would call that a failure. 3 tries, 3 times he backed down. But Joost doesn't see it that way. When he looks at the mountain, he doesn't see defeat. He sees knowledge. Every try gave him new information. Where it gets tough, where the danger is, how much time it takes, how his body copes, how his mind reacts. These aren't failures, they're steps. The mountain isn't moving. Everest was here for millions of years before Joost. It'll be here for millions after. It's not in a rush. It doesn't change, it just is. It waits, always, uncaring, timeless, patient. Reporters ask him, "Are you coming back?" Joost keeps it simple. "Yeah, I'll be back." When? He can't say. Maybe next year, maybe the year after. Whenever his body's healed, when his back stops hurting, when the weather gives him a window. But he'll be back. He wants to climb the whole West Ridge, from base camp to the summit. No oxygen, no team, no support. Pure alpine style. One continuous push. The way nobody's ever done in winter. It sounds crazy, almost impossible. But Joost doesn't see another way. For him, it's not just about reaching the top. It's about how you do it. His voice isn't cocky or dramatic. There's no hero worship, no showing off. He's just calm. The kind of calm you get when you know exactly what this mountain can take from you. He's seen it claim lives. He's felt his own body shutting down. He's turned around when others kept going and didn't make it back. This isn't stubbornness. It's not about chasing glory. It's about answering a question most people don't really ask themselves. Where's my limit? Not someone else's, not an average, mine, not the kind they write about in textbooks. I mean my own, personal, real. Joost found it at 7,488 meters, in the dark, in the cold, completely alone, but he knows the line can move, with experience, with training, with the right moment, and he's ready to keep searching. What's more important, the summit or the journey to get there? For tourists, it's the summit, the photo, the certificate, the status. For Joost, it's the journey, because the journey changes you. The summit is just a point on the map. The journey is what transforms an ordinary gay from a small German town into someone who can stand on the edge of what's possible and come back, again and again. The mountain's still waiting. So is Joost. Their story isn't over. In fact, it's just beginning. Thanks for being with us. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like and subscribe.